All right, it's official. The Boston Bruins have been knocked out of the Stanley Cup playoffs yet again by the Florida Panthers. And I got to say, as a Boston fan, this is a bit of a bittersweet moment. On one hand, I knew that this Florida team was more than capable of destroying the Bruins in this series, and that's exactly what happened. But on the other hand, I really just love the underdog mentality for Boston, the spunk and their ability to pull through in tough moments. I just felt like they were capable of winning this series had the puck just bounced a couple different ways. But regardless, before I get into my Bruins talk and kind of how I'm feeling at the moment, I just want to say congrats to the Panthers. That was one heck of a series. This team is unbelievably talented and should be able to make a deep run in this year's playoffs. So kudos to them. Great series from the Cats. But getting into the Bruins, I just want to start by talking about their season, their playoff series, and then why you as a Boston fan should be feeling pretty optimistic about this team moving forward. So this is a very unedited, just kind of unfiltered video about me kind of just breaking down the Bruins and how I'm feeling about my favorite hockey team at the moment. So let's just talk by recapping the season in general and why you shouldn't be disappointed as a Bruins fan. For starters, I think if you've been paying attention to the team, you knew that this was going to be a bridge year. The Bruins were very limited with their cap space. They had a lot of things go wrong for them. One, with Bergeron and Krejci retiring out of the blue, as well as just not having the money to bring back a lot of the players that you had at last year's trade deadline, like Bertuzzi and Orlov. But now heading into the season, you bring in a bunch of young guys. They all play up to their position. Guys like Patra and Beecher looked amazing this year, as well as guys like Lauko and Boqvist also having a big impact. I love the addition of Geeky. I love the addition of Heinen. They were all great players for this Boston team all year long. You also were able to bring in a few veterans like Pat Maroon and Shattenkirk, who you should re-sign next year because I think they're great leaders for this team and should be a positive addition for the Bruins moving forward. But let's be honest, this team on paper just isn't as talented as some of the other teams, not only in the East, but the West as well. That Rangers team is loaded. The Hurricanes team is loaded, as well as this Panthers team. They are all just a class and tier above this Boston team. So seeing them reach the second round, I think that that's just a fantastic achievement for this team. Not only that, but getting second in the Atlantic Division above teams like Toronto, who are projected to be 10 times better than you as well. I think we all should appreciate the season that this Boston team put out for us. Now let's talk about the playoffs a bit and start with that Toronto series. I actually had Toronto winning that one in 6. I just felt like on paper, they were a lot more talented than Boston, and we're just going to get a few more goals. Of course, we got that epic performance from Swayman all series long, and of course the Toronto Maple Leafs are also going to choke out every series and always out choke their opponent. But regardless, I think that series said a lot for the Bruins. They lost 2 years in a row in Game 7, and that last year's one was just incredibly disappointing. So to see them pull that out and get that monkey off their back, I think that was huge for this team. And then heading into the Florida series, getting that Game 1, I felt like they had all of the confidence in the world and we're going to be able to defeat the Panthers maybe in 6 if they really wanted to. But you could kind of see the fatigue rolling in, and that's where the talent and forecheck of the Panthers just started to outshine the Bruins, and that's why they ended up losing this series. If you're a fan of Boston and you're blaming the refs, yeah, there were a few calls that were a bit questionable, but let's be honest, that Florida team, they're just 10 times better than this Boston team, and that's just kind of the reality of the whole situation. So now what do we talk about moving forward? Well, the Bruins have a ton of cap space next year and should be able to bring in some nice free agents. If there's a guy like Steven Stamkos available, bring him on in to play center. I think they definitely need to add a top line center this year. That was a huge piece missing in the playoffs. With Coyle and Zacha kind of becoming ghosts, I think they really could have used a guy to help out Pastrnak and Marchand on those top two lines. I think the other thing you really need to focus on is re-signing Jeremy Swayman. I don't know if that means you have to give up Allmark to do it, but Swayman showed that he is more than capable of being the number one guy and that he actually outplayed Allmark all playoffs long this year compared to last year. So you definitely need to figure out a way to bring him back on a big extension. I don't know what that's going to cost, but whatever he asks for, you should do it. And I also think you need to kind of address some of the other areas of your roster. Like, do you bring back guys like Jake DeBrusk because he kind of had a down year? Do you bring back the players like Morgan Geeky and Danton Heinen, who could be nice additions moving forward, but they really aren't these all-star players? Who knows? If I was running the Bruins, though, I would look to go add some guys, maybe not necessarily all veterans, but some players maybe like Steven Stamkos, like Patrick Kane, those guys to play along guys like Marchand and Pastrnak and really elevate this team, because you need to step things up offensively. I think your defensive core is pretty good, but maybe you could add one more guy back there for a second line deep pairing. I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I know they have the money to do it, and they should really look to invest in this team because some of these guys are getting older. Pasternak's in his prime right now. You want to capitalize on this window, and I think next year will actually be Boston's best chance to win a cup, especially if you compare whatever roster they come up with next year to this year. You're going to see a massive difference. But yeah, just wanted to come on here, kind of talk about the team, just everything in general. I'm feeling a little bit depressed right now. I got to be honest. This was a kind of a devastating loss. Definitely not as bad as last year, but it still hurts a bit. So let me know if you're a Bruins fan or not. How did you like this series? Did you think Boston ever stood a chance? And what do you think the Bruins should do in the offseason? What players would you like to see them bring in? And what players do you think they should bring back as well? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you guys for sitting through my rant and watching my videos. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.